Hey, hello there and welcome. It's Ron here, Ron Sherritt on Ron's Folk and Country Show here on Brighton and Hove Community Radio. I'm trying to find where my microphone is now. Oh, there it is. Yeah, sorry about that. It's Ron Sherritt here on Brighton and Hove Community Radio. And we've got some great folk music lined up and a bit of country as well, but we mostly do folk on this show. Let's go start off this week with Michael row the boat ashore, Peter, Paul and Mary. When they go,
Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. Sister help to trim the sails, hallelujah. Sister help to trim the sails, hallelujah. Jordan's river is deep and wide, hallelujah. And I've got a home on the other side, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. Michael's boat is a music boat, hallelujah. Michael's boat is a music boat, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. The trumpet sound, the trumpet sound, hallelujah. Trumpet sound for you and me, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore,
well, that was an old family song, wasn't it? Michael row the boat ashore there by Peter, Paul and Mary here on Ron's Folk and Country Show here on Brighton and Hove Community Radio. And we hope you're going to enjoy the show this week. Now here's Pete Seeger. Oh, Susanna. Come on, Pete. Where are you, Pete? Come on. There he goes.
I come from Alabama with my banjo on my knee. I'm going to Louisiana, my true love for to see. It rained all night the day I left, the weather it was dry. The sun so hot I froze to death. Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with my banjo on my knee. I had a dream the other night when everything was still. I dreamed I saw Susanna coming down the hill. A red, red rose was in her cheek, a tear was in her eye. I said to her, Susanna, gal, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with my banjo on my knee.
Banjo on My Knee there by Oh Susanna there by Pete Seeger. That was recorded in 1957. Recorded in 1957 with a bit of the old George Formby-like banjo there, wasn't it? Yeah, and Pete became very, very, very popular. Now we're having a lot of sing-along songs this week in the program. Why not? This is what folk reminds me of, singing along in the pub and the community hall. And here's Woody Guthrie with another one like that. Woody Guthrie and This Land Is Your Land.
This land is your land, and this land is my land, from the California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went a-walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway, saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts. All around me a voice was sounding, this land was made for you and me. When the sun comes shining, then I was strolling in the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling. The voice was chanting as the fog was lifting, this land was made for you and me. This land is your land, and this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. When the sun comes shining, then I was strolling, in the wheat fields waving, the dust clouds rolling, the voice coming chanting, and the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me.
This land was made for you and me there by Woody Guthrie, whose name I can't remember now. It was something Wilson Guthrie, that was it. And I believe he died in about 1997. Very popular. And here now we're going on with, I'm trying to think, who shall we have next? Here we are, yeah. Here's the New Seekers and Free to Be. Let me sing, yeah.
Shining sea, and you and me are free to be.
a shining sea, for a land where the horses run free. And you and me are free to be, you and me. Every boy in this land grows to be his own man. In this land, every girl grows to be her own woman. Take my hand, come with me, where the children are free. Come with me, take my hand, and we'll run to a land where the river runs free, to a land through the green country, to a land, to a shining sea, to a land where the horses run free, to a land where the children are free. And you and me are free to be. And you and me are free to be. And you and me are free to be. You and me.
Free to Be You by the new Seekers there. Of course, formed from the old Seekers, the original Australian Seekers, isn't it? Now, there's a lovely lady called Odetta, and he's got the whole world in his hand.
He's got the whole world in his hand. He got the great big world in his hand. He got the whole world in his hand. He got the whole world in his hand. He got the wind and the rain right in his hand. He got the stars and the moon in his hand. He got the wind and the rain in his hand. He got the whole world in his hand. He got the gambling man right in his hand. He got the lion man right in his hand. He got the crab shooting man in his hand. He got the whole world in his hand. He's got the little bits of babies in his hand. He got the little bits of babies in his hand. He got the little bits of babies in his hand. He got the whole world in his hand. He got a you and me brother
Odette.
in his hand. He got a you and me sister.
According to
in his
Wikipedia,
hand. He
Odette
got a
Sanson
you and me
GC,
brother.
MBE, also known
In
as
his
Odette
hand.
Churchill
He
and
got the
Odette Hallows,
whole
codenamed
world in
Lees, was an
his
agent for the
hand.
United Kingdom's
Well, he
clandestine
got
special operations executive in France
in
during
his
the Second World
hand. He
War.
got everybody in his hand. He got everybody here right in his hand. He got the whole world in his hand.
Excuse, please, the bit of a thing in the background you hear there. Have a thing comes up, you see, and tells me who the singers are. Excuse me. And unfortunately gave me the wrong Odette. That was Odette. I don't know. I'm trying to find out something about her. And the Odette they were telling you about on the background there was Odette Hallows, the wonderful lady war hero. Now, she was singing there, he's got the whole world in his hand. Many, of course, of our great folk songs like that one are also, of course, sung in churches. And they really come out now. They really put the gospel across. And can you get the gospel coming across better than that? But now here's Peter, Paul and Mary again. And a song we loved as the kids in the 50s, Puff the Magic Dragon. Oh, good. Used to play this, Children's Choice.
The magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper loved that rascal Puff, and brought him strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. Oh, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Together they would travel on a boat with billowed sail. Jackie kept a lookout perched on Puff's gigantic tail. Noble kings and princes would bow whene'er they came. Pirate ships would lower their flags when Puff roared out his name. Oh, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. A dragon lives forever, but not so little boys. Painted wings and giant's rings make way for other toys. One gray night it happened, Jackie Paper came no more, and Puff that mighty dragon, he ceased his fearless roar. His head was bent in sorrow, green scales fell like rain. Puff no longer went to play along the cherry lane. Without his lifelong friend, Puff could not be brave. So Puff, that mighty dragon, sadly slipped into his cave. Oh, Puff, the magic dragon, lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu.
Oh, we loved that as kids in the 50s. Puff the Magic Dragon by Peter, Paul and Mary. That just came across so well, and we just love to listen to it. And I don't know, I've got one by Woody Guthrie coming up called Good Night Little Ario, or Good Night Little Darling by Woody Guthrie again. Let's have it, shall we?
Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, good night, good night. Good night, little darling, good night, good night, good night, little darling, good night. You played, little darling, all day. Your eyes are sleepy, I see. Boys and girls are all sleeping tight. Good night, little darling, good night. 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 Good night, good night, little darling, good night. You played, little darling, all day with dolls and wagons and clay. Your bath was warm and your jammers are nice. Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, good night, good night, good night, little darling, good night, good night, good night, little darling, good night, little darling, good night, little darling, good night. You hurt your finger, I see. Come here and bring him to me. Wrap a little finger up nice and tight. Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, 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 good night. You danced and sung with the kids, told me all that you did, told me your games and told me your fights. Good night, little darling, good night. Night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, good night, little darling, good night, little darling, good night. Tippy, tippy toe now to bed, snug and snug down your head. Cover you over so nice and tight. Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, good night, little darling, good night, little darling, good night. I'll see you when the morning gets bright. Don't let the bedbugs bite. Both jump up when the sun gets light. Good night, little darling, good night. Good night, little darling, 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 good night.
He got better as he got older. That was Woody Guthrie there again, and good night, little darling. Well, now we're going to have another song from the lady, I called her Odette. Her real name's really Odette. Another sort of biblical-like song, Hush Little Baby.
Hush, little baby, don't you say a word. Papa's gonna buy you a mockingbird. If that mockingbird don't sing, Papa's gonna buy you a diamond ring. If that diamond ring is brass, yeah, Papa's gonna buy you a looking glass. If that looking glass gets broke, Papa's gonna buy you a billy goat. If that billy goat don't pull, Papa's gonna buy you a carton bull. If that carton bull turn over, Papa's gonna buy you a dog named Rover. If that dog named Rover don't bark, Papa's gonna buy you a horse and cart. If that horse and cart fall down, you'll still be the sweetest little baby in town. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Papa loves it. So do I.
That was Odetta. Odetta is her name, yeah. Now, this is Brighton Hove Community Radio. I'm Ron Sherratt. Hope you're enjoying the show. I've made a few mistakes this week, but then again, we are amateurs at this station. We try to be as professional as possible, but we are a community radio station. We're the community bringing you our radio from here in Brighton and Hove, here in Sussex. And if you'd like to become part of this great concern, just get in touch with Susie Oddball. She's on Facebook, that's Susie, S-U-S-I, Oddball. She's on Facebook. And this is Doc Watson and the Riddle Song.
cherry that had no stone. I gave my love a chicken that had no bone. I gave my love a baby with no crying, and told my love a story that has no end. How can there be a cherry that has no stone? How can there be a chicken that has no bone? How can there be a baby with no crying? How can you tell a story that has no end? Cherry, when it's blooming, has no stone. And a chicken, when it's pippin', there is no bone. A little baby sleeping has no crying. And when I say I love you, it has no end.
Dan Jones and Friends there. And now we're going on to one of the best sort of folk gospel songs, We Shall Not Be Moved.
3, 4.
This is Dan Zames and Friends. Dan Zames and Friends.
Just like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. When we sing together, we shall not be moved. When we sing together, we shall not be moved. Just like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. When we work together, we shall not be moved. When we work together, we shall not be moved. Just like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. When we're playing banjos, we shall not be moved. When we're playing banjos, we shall not be moved. Just like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be
We Shall Not Be Moved there by Dan Zames and Friends. Now, Burl Ives made a big hit with the Big Rock Candy Mountain in the 60s as part, was it in that? It's done in the film Summer Magic? No, it wasn't. Big Rock Candy Mountain, but it was, excuse me, but it's sung here by Maggie Griffin.
On a summer day in the month of May, a burly bum came hiking down a shady lane through the sugar cane. He was looking for his liking. As he roamed along, he sang a song of the land of milk and honey, where a bum can stay for many a day and he won't need any money. Oh, the buzzing of the bees and the cigarette trees near the soda water fountain, at the lemonade springs where the bluebird sings, and the Big Rock Candy Mountain. For a farmer and his son, they were on the run to the hayfield they were bounding. Said the bum to the son, why don't you come to the Big Rock Candy Mountain? So the very next day they hiked away, the mileposts they kept counting, but they never arrived at the lemonade tide on the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Oh, the buzzing of the bees and the cigarette trees near the soda water fountain, at the lemonade spring where the bluebird sings on the Big Rock Candy Mountain.
I like that version better than Burl Ives, the Big Rock Candy Mountain there by Maggie Griffin. And now we have Skip to My Lou by Cisco Houston. We're all American this week, aren't we? Anyway, Skip to My Lou.
Lost my partner, skipped to my loo. Lost my partner, skipped to my loo. Lost my partner, skipped to my loo.
Bit more country this week as well.
Darling, I'll get another, put it in you. I'll get another, put it in you. I'll get another, put it in you. Skip to my loo, my darling. Can't get a bluebird, a red bird do. Can't get a red bird, bluebird do. Can't get a bluebird, a red bird do. Skip to my loo, my darling. Little red wagon painted blue, little red wagon painted blue, little red wagon painted blue. Skip to my loo, my darling. Flying a sugar bowl to fly you, flying a sugar bowl to fly you, flying a sugar bowl to fly you. Skip to my loo, my darling. Skip to my loo, 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 my darling. I had a pistol, I'd shoot you. If I had a pistol, I'd shoot you. If I had a pistol, I'd shoot you. Skip to my loo, my darling. Play, boy, play. Lost my partner, skip to my loo. Lost my partner, skip to my loo. Lost my partner, skip to my loo. Skip to my loo, my darling. I'll get another and prettier than you. I'll get another and prettier than you. I'll get another and prettier than you. Skip to Maloo, darling.
Skip to Maloo there. Now, all this week has come from an album called Folk for Children. Well, now we're going to go over to an album called Essential Folk. And we're starting off with Bob Dylan and Blowing in the Wind.
How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? Yes, and how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
That's real folk, that is, in my view. Bob Dylan and Blowing in the Wind. I think he wrote that as well. Now, here is Fairport Convention, a British group. We're all American today, you see. Now, I'm showing you I'm not biased towards the American. Here's Fairport Convention and what's what we call it? Hang on, I'm losing myself. Who knows where the time goes? Fairport Convention.
The evening sky, all the birds are leaving, but how can they know it's time for them to go? Before the winter's fire, I will still be dreaming. I have no thought of time. deserted shore. Your fickle friends are leaving. But then you know it's time for them to go. While my love is near me, I know it will be so until it's time to go. So calm the storms of winter, and then the birds in spring again. I have no fear of time, for who knows how my love grows, and who knows where the tide goes.
Fairport Convention there, of course, and Sandy Perry, of course, I can't think of her name now, was, I believe, there in the lead. We're going to another lady now, John Byers, and the night they drove old Dixie down, John Byers.
Virgil Kane is my name, and I drove on the Danville train till so much cavalry came and tore up the tracks again. In the winter of '65, we were hungry, just barely alive. I took the train to Richmond that fell. It was a time I remember oh so well. And one day she said to me, Virgil, quick come see, there goes the Robert E. Lee. Now I don't mind, I'm chopping wood, and I don't care if the money's no good. Just take what you need and leave the rest. But they should never have taken the very best. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the bells were ringing. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the people were singing. They went la 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 la. Like my father before me, I'm a working man. And like my brother before me, I took a rebel stand. Well, he was just 18, proud and brave, but a Yankee laid him in his grave. I swear by the blood below my feet, you can't raise a cane back up when it's in the feed. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the bells were ringing. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the people were singing. They went la 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 la.
The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, there by Joan Baez. And now let's go on to the Kingston Trio and Tom Dooley. We're back to the banjo Americans. Back to the Americans again.
About the Eternal Triangle. This next one tells the story of a Mr. Grayson, a beautiful woman, and a condemned man named Tom Dooley. When the sun rises tomorrow, Tom Dooley must hang. Hang down your head.
This is the
Tom
Kingston Trio.
Dooley, hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Poor boy, you're bound to die. I met her on the mountain. There I took her life. Met her on the mountain. Stabbed her with my knife. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Poor boy, you're bound to die. This time tomorrow, reckon where I'll be. Hadn't it been for Grayson, I'd have been in Tennessee.
Oh, well, now, boy,
hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head and cry.
Oh, well,
hang down your head and cry. Oh boy, you're bound to die.
Oh, well, now, boy,
hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head and cry. Oh boy, you're bound to die. This time tomorrow, reckon where I'll be. Down in some lonesome valley, hanging from a white oak tree. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Poor boy, you're bound to die.
oh, well, now, boy,
Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Hang down your head and cry.
oh, well,
Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Poor boy, you're bound to die. Poor boy, you're bound to die. Poor boy, you're bound to die.
poor boy, you're bound to die.
The Kingston Trio there and Tom Dooley. Back in the 1960s, when I was a kid, a young girl won Opportunity Knocks. Remember, those of you who are old enough remember Opportunity Knocks on the telly with Huey Green. Well, this was a Welsh girl called, what was it called? Mary Hopkin, a young Welsh girl. And there she is with the song she had as a hit record, Those Were the Days.
Once upon a time there was a tavern where we used to raise a glass or two. Remember how we laughed away the hours? Think of all the great things we would do. Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose. We'd fight and never lose, for we were young and sure to have our way. Then the busy years went rushing by us. We lost our starry notions on the way. If by chance I'd see you in the tavern, we'd smile at one another and we'd say, those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose. We'd fight and never lose. Those were the days, oh yes, those were the days. La la da 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 Just tonight I stood before the tavern. Nothing seemed the way it used to be. In the glass I saw strange reflections. Was that lonely woman really me? Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose. We'd fight and never lose. Those were the days, oh
And she had a big hit with that record, which was actually produced by Paul McCartney and released on the Apple label. I believe it was about 1968. She was a very, very, very popular. But then she sort of retired from the business and sort of faded away. Well, it's nearly time for us now to fade away for this week anyway. We hope you enjoyed the program. This has been Ron's Folk and Country Show here on Brighton and Hove Community Radio, Mixcloud and a few other places. Hope you enjoyed the show. We're going to go out now with an English group called The Birds and Mr. Tambourine Man.
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there ain't no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you. Take me for a trip upon your magic swirling ship. All my senses have been stripped, and my hands can't feel to grip, and my toes too numb to step. Wait only for my boot heels to be wandering.